very good natural physiques, but then they respond to gear. And it's like, well, how,
Yeah.
but then and then there's guys who have not that good of natural physiques who explode. So it's like,
Yeah.
well, why would your endogenous testosterone respond this way to, like, why would your androgen receptors interact in this way with your natural production? But then when you take gear, you explode like a mutant.
How often do you see a guy who's a natural that works out and he's wearing a shirt and you know he works out? Like a full shirt. Like how often do you really? The only guys I've ever known, I'll be honest, are black guys. To be honest, that were natural. I knew one black guy I mentioned on the Boston show. I think I mentioned him when you were there, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that black guy. I knew a black guy in LA, dude. This guy's lats, they hung like this thick off his back, and I swear to God, all he did was pull ups every few days. He had a chest like it was so deep, 3 inches. He had full abs. His shoulders were capped, and I went to the guy and I was like, "What do you do?" He's like, "I do a few pull ups here." He didn't eat anything. I mean, it was real. There are
This
people
is
like
like
that.
deja vu. I literally watched this clip like an hour ago while I was eating my dinner.
There are people like that, but I've never seen a white guy like that. Like most of guys, like if honestly, if I worked out natural, if I was wearing a shirt, you wouldn't know I worked out, a full shirt. You wouldn't know. And most guys you wouldn't know. That's what I meant to say there, is that it's a lot of it is the drugs, you know what I mean?
Of course, it's always involved. And at one point, the guys that have a good foundation naturally, at one point, it will result to drugs and turn pro. Within 3 or 4 years, I've met white guys as well with awesome genetics, great shape. And then everybody accuses them with drugs, and then they start drugs, and then they blow the fuck up.
You've seen
The
guys
thing
that
I
are
always thought
Yeah,
was
but
weird is
dime a
guys
dozen.
who have like very good natural physiques, but then they respond shitty to gear. And it's like, well, how,
Yeah.
but then and then there's guys who have not that good of natural physiques who explode. So it's like,
Yeah.
well, why would your endogenous testosterone respond this way to, like, why would your androgen receptors interact in this way with your natural production? But then when you take gear, you explode like a mutant versus the natural guy with like a good baseline. But then when he takes gear, he only ends up like a men's physique competitor at best. Like it just seems odd.
I think it's a
you could have
genetic
more
response.
cells.
And
You could have
yeah,
more cells. Say, for example, one guy has more muscle cells originally. That doesn't mean he responds more necessarily to the IGF-1 receptor or the androgen receptor. Maybe there are other things that dictate the number of cells you have other than growth hormone and insulin, right?
there's so many anabolic pathways that, if you go on cycle, maybe the androgen receptor pathway is not really optimal for you, but you need to look into the other pathways that contribute to anabolism. I got a video about that too, guys. The anabolic pathways.
Another
that you can
topic,
exhaust.
Derek, you wanted to discuss Dallas McCarver's autopsy.
Oh yeah. People, it's sort of been resurfaced as a topic because his blood test, and I was like typically when you see these kind of units of measurement, you would look in something like